I think there's room for some general comments about what's going on globally, because what's happening in Gaza and in Israel is dependent on global events. Trump is accusing Biden of having manufactured the Hamas attack effectively by giving Iran money, by restarting the Palestinian program of help. And there's an element where that is true. If you go back to, if you look at Biden's mistakes, and I'm sure history will spend a lot of time looking at Biden's mistakes, top of them is without question the withdrawal from Afghanistan, partly a plan by Trump. So Biden has a sort of get-out clause by saying, well, it wasn't his plan in the first place. It was partly a Trump policy change. And I think the reason it happened so fast and without enough forethought and without enough questioning was because of Biden's anxiety to, if he has to be a one-term president, to still leave a legacy. And it's that obsession with speed which I think explains a lot of the Biden era. It also explains, I think, the 235 million restart of humanitarian aid. It's the right thing to have done, eventually, along with the £6 million release of funds to Iran, along with getting people back from the hostage situation in Iran. It's the right thing to do, in principle, but it sends a signal to other players, as did the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Often the right thing to do is not the best action to take, and the right move needs the right timing. It would have been better never to have stopped the aid to Palestine, never to have stopped the funds to Iran, never to have imposed sanctions. I think sanctions are always a problem, but undoing the stupidity of the past can be a move of greater recklessness. Thus, indeed, sanctions. It's now not about whether we impose sanctions, but when we lift sanctions and how we relax them and what signals that sends to the wider community beyond the region about the strength of the US, about the strength of NATO, about the determination of the civilized world to stand together. And really, we want to embrace more countries, more people in that civilized concept. But the relaxing of punishments is seen as a sign of weakness, thus, and this, the Biden thing is about, it's got an edge of pity about it. It's got an edge of pity me, this obsession with his legacy, the desperation to make an impression. It's like Liz Truss trying to mark her territory, leave her mark, with reference to Kwasi Kwarteng's prodigious package and all that trash. All too soon, all too desperate, all too clingy, all too hyperbolic, and in the end we distrust everything, and we throw out the baby with the bathwater. And it's that sense of weakness, it's that parade of pity, which I think is lying underneath any sort of analysis that one can make about the wider reasons or excuses for Hamas's dreadful attack. And the fact that one condemns Hamas does not mean that one's condemning the Palestinians. I think the Palestinians are living in appalling conditions, and it shouldn't be happening. I think the settlement program is appalling, but at the same time, the appalling loss of life in Israel because of this refusal to communicate, this refusal to engage in serious negotiations. There isn't just one Palestinian problem. There are layers of Palestinian problems, as indeed there are layers of different forms of Palestinians, those who were in Palestine or descend from Palestinians before 1947, those who have come since, those who have been in Jordan, those who have been in Egypt, those who are permanently stuck in Gaza. And there are so many layers of Palestinian, as there are so many different layers and different types of Israeli. I know myself from talking to so many friends who escaped, they'll be using that word differently now, from Russia to Israel, and they are so dismayed and out of sorts in Israel. They find it very much a foreign environment, although there is an increasingly large Russian community in Israel. But it's a difficult. They are entering an environment where people are banded together and they feel excluded. And there are, and talking to these people, there are so many different levels of Israeli society, as there are so many different levels of Palestinian society. And we in the West, looking on from the UK, looking on from Europe, looking on from the US, see a sort of monolithic system, the Palestinians versus the Israelis. And it's not as simple. We should break with our simplistic analysis. We should break with our one-word slogans or our one-phrase slogans, because they don't work in reality, and all they do is stimulate misery. And so much of our sloganizing, so much of our pontificating, so much of our politics today is about control, about somebody recognizing a problem and proposing their own solution. If you don't accept that solution, you don't recognize the problem. You don't share that understanding of the problem. This is nonsense. Even if we agree on the same problem, there are a variety of different solutions to that. And only by talking, only by communicating, can we possibly hope to reach that. We're not going to do it by bombing, and we're certainly not going to do it by not talking. So sanctions and a sort of mute approach. I'm not talking to that country, I'm not talking to that group, I'm not talking to that person, is childish. Utterly, utterly childish. We must talk to the people, to our adversaries. We must talk to our adversaries. And if we can't directly talk to our adversaries, our friends can. And they should. And they should be doing so fast.